Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Chantel and sorry it's been a little while since I did a video, but I've been doing things, I've been busy. As you can see, I've changed the location where I'm filming because I've now done a bunch of reorganization stuff and I can now actually sit in front of a bookshelf full of my books while I record video. So I've done that, yay. And yeah, so in this video, I want to talk about the books that I read in the month of May. I didn't read as much in May as I have been, which is fine. I've said before, like, I'm slowing down. I tend to slow down around the middle of the year because in the summertime, I tend to get busy with other things. I've been sucked down the rabbit hole of Baldur's Gate 3. I'm playing with a friend of mine. We do like 2 or 3 nights a week. So I'm still reading every day, but I'm not reading as much. And so it's taking me much longer to get through individual books, and therefore I'm reading fewer books. But, you know, it's fine. I also, I don't think I've watched any movies in a few weeks either, because when I'm not playing BG3 or reading, I've been watching television, because again, like, the television season is in full swing and I've got a lot of TV shows to keep up with when I'm not playing BG3, so I really haven't been going to the movies either. The only movie theater experience I've had in the past few weeks was I went to my local university theater. They screened the National Theater production of Nye last weekend, starring Michael Sheen. This is not a film, it's a filmed play about Aneurin Bevan, aka Nye Bevan. He was a Welsh politician who was largely responsible for the creation of the national health system in the UK in 1948, and this is sort of a biographical piece about him and his life. Michael Sheen was incredible. It was good. If you get a chance, if your local theater happens to be screening this play, I highly recommend giving it a look-see, because yeah, it's interesting subject matter, and Michael Sheen is an absolutely incredible performer in anything that he's in, and it's worth it to watch him do anything, really, right? So that's basically what I watched. Otherwise, I'm watching Doctor Who, I'm watching Interview with the Vampire, I have a couple other shows. I just finished watching Fallout, which was really good. I'm still catching up with Under the Bridge. I've fallen behind on that. I've started watching the new season of Bridgerton. I just started that after I finished Fallout, so I'm working my way through that. I'm also trying to catch up with The Bear before the 3rd season drops this month, actually. It's June 1st, so I'm pretty sure The Bear season 3 drops sometime this month. And of course, next week, in less than a week, actually, the Acolyte premieres. So there's a lot of television in the works. And later this month, the House of the Dragon comes back also. So yeah, there's a lot of television going on. But mostly I'm here to talk about the books that I read this month. So yeah, I read 6 books this month. Only 6, almost 7, but really 6. The 7th, I'll be finishing another book here probably in the next couple of days. So yeah, let's talk about them. The first book I read this month was Sorcery by Terry Pratchett. This is the next book in the Discworld series, and this was really fun. This was another Rincewind story, and, you know, I think Rincewind is generally considered to be most people's, like, least favorite, like, sub-series within Discworld, and it kind of is mine as well, but this one is definitely, like, the best of the Rincewind novels that I've read so far, right? This is the third Rincewind, centered story, and this is by far, in my opinion, the funniest. I think a lot of it is just that at this point, Pratchett has more of an idea of like what he's really doing with these characters, and like that he's actually like, not only is he taking them on obviously physical journeys, and we're going to we're going to a different continent in this book, and we're spoofing on the sort of the Aladdin Middle Eastern type fairy tale-ish fantasy, but also like he has an idea of like the arc that Rincewind is actually on in this book, and he takes him on that arc, and it's a fun arc for Rincewind to be on, and I really like where the character ends up at by the end of this book. And I also really like a lot of the side characters in this book. This book is really heavy on the librarian, which is awesome. I really, really love the librarian. Ook, and occasionally Eek, as our friend the librarian would say. Yeah. I also, I really enjoy Creosote as a character. I love Creosote. Like, he's so funny. Pratchett is really at his best when he is making fun of rich people, right? And Creosote is a perfect example of that. So, like, yeah, this was fun from start to finish. I just really enjoyed every moment of this. I really liked, let's see, what was her name? I'm trying to remember all the names. Kunina, yeah. The daughter of Kohen the Barbarian. Really funny, you know. She just wants to be a hairdresser. My sister's a hairdresser, so I think that's funny. But she has those, she has that genetic stuff in her that makes her just be really, really good at fighting. And it's very funny. I really enjoy her as a character. So yeah, like, all the characters in here are really good. Even Rincewind is like the least annoying that he is in any of the books so far. And so this was a really fun one for me. I enjoyed the heck out of this book. The next book I read was Soulstar by C.L. Polk. This is the third and final book in the Kingston Cycle trilogy of secondary world fantasy. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I had some issues with it that are similar to the ones that I had with the previous entry in this trilogy. Frankly, I think this trilogy is weaker than the last Binding trilogy, because I think it in some ways is trying a little too hard to be like, oh, we gotta change this monarchy to a democracy kind of thing, and it doesn't always land for me, but it is enjoyable. The characters are really fun. I really like the main character in this book. I think she's much more interesting than the main character of the second book, frankly. Largely because she is slightly lower class, right? The main character of the last book was very privileged and coming at everything from a very strong place of privilege and having to sort of unlearn her privilege. And like, yeah, I've read that story a lot, and frankly, it gets tiring sometimes. Sometimes I want to read stories about more working class people, right? And the main character in this book is more working class. So that's interesting. Also, her relationship with the other character is not foregrounded as much as I really wanted or expected it to be, which is a little bit unfortunate considering like it's a pretty rare type of pairing where one character is a woman, the other character is non-binary. I don't see that very often in fiction. I wanted there to be more of that relationship. There wasn't as much of that relationship as I wanted there to be in this book. But it was good. I thought it wrapped up in a pretty satisfying way. I enjoyed my time with this trilogy. I did not feel like my time was wasted. There was just, I had some issues with it that made it less than perfect for me. But the characters are engaging. The world building is fun. It's a good time, generally speaking. Then finally, I got to The Return of the Shadow. This is the 6th volume in the History of Middle-earth series. This is the manuscript history of Middle-earth, beginning from the earliest days and at the tail end of World War I, going through, the invention of the primary Silmarillion material, and then moving into this volume, which is the first in the history of The Lord of the Rings. So this is the very earliest. This is obviously the manuscripts themselves, written by J.R.R. Tolkien, and edited and published by his son and literary executor Christopher Tolkien after his death. So this is an examination of some of the earliest draft materials of the story that would become The Lord of the Rings. So this is pretty niche. This is one of those books that, like, if you're really, really, really into Tolkien studies, like I am hardcore into Tolkien studies, then this is absolutely going to be for you. If you're not hardcore into Tolkien studies, if you're not sort of academia adjacent, if you're not into literary analysis, manuscript history kind of stuff, and scholarly editorial analysis, it's probably not going to be for you, right? These are pretty niche, but I love them. This one is especially fun for me because after 5 volumes of Silmarillion material, which, again, I really like the Silmarillion material, don't get me wrong, it's good stuff, there's a lot of good stuff in there, but, like, getting to actually, like, starting on The Lord of the Rings, to me, is really fun. So it's like, yeah, he starts towards the beginning of 1938, he's gonna write a sequel to The Hobbit, and this really traces, like, his earliest sort of issues that he has trying to figure out what he's actually going to be doing, right? As he sort of talks about in some of his letters at the time to his publisher especially, and to some of his friends, he didn't really know what he was going to do, right? His publisher wanted a sequel to The Hobbit, basically, and he was like, well, I don't really know what to do. I did everything I wanted to do in The Hobbit. I'm not sure what else there is. So he's kind of struggled. And some of that really shows through in these early manuscripts. He doesn't know who his main character is going to be. Maybe he should make his main character be Bilbo again. Maybe he should make his main character be this other character called Bingo. But who is Bingo? Is Bingo Bilbo's son? Is Bingo Bilbo's nephew? Is he a cousin? Like, who is Bingo? And then he introduces us to another hobbit in The Prancing Pony and Bree called Trotter. He's a ranger. He wears wooden shoes. He's a hobbit. Who the hell is Trotter? Where does Trotter come from? Why is Trotter doing all this stuff? How does he know all this stuff? So watching Tolkien sort of grapple with these issues as he's sort of writing these drafts and rewriting these drafts is really fascinating for me personally. But I think one of the things that's the most interesting for me about this is that even in these earliest drafts, a lot of what he writes is going to end up in the final published Lord of the Rings. Like, the very first chapter of the sequel to The Hobbit was always called A Long Expected Party, and it was always about a party. Some hobbit, again, like, he couldn't decide if it was going to be Bilbo or Bingo, or if Bingo was going to be Frodo or whatever, but it was always going to be a party. Somebody was going to have a big birthday party, and it was going to be a long expected party, and a lot of what is in that first chapter makes it, often in a very different contextual way, into the final published version of The Lord of the Rings, which I think is fascinating. Like, that to me is one of the most interesting parts of this, is how much of these really early drafts actually does make it into the final version. Like, that's crazy to me. That, like, the very first draft of the very first chapter of this book, a lot of it makes it into the final version in some way, shape, or form. Some of it, even, like, actual lines come directly to us from these earliest manuscripts. So it's really fascinating to read this stuff. Again, like, yeah, the differences are fun to, like, laugh about or point out, right? There's a great note where Tolkien literally writes a note to himself. Maybe I should call Bingo Frodo. Bingo is a bad name. I should call him Frodo instead. And then, like, right under that, he writes, nah, I'm too used to Bingo. I'm going to leave it Bingo. And then, you know, a couple of drafts later, he is in fact Frodo, and he's going to stay Frodo now until, you know, the publication. But it's a really fascinating history, and I'm really enjoying my time with it. I really take my time with these. Part of the reason why I only read 6 books this month is because I really take my time with these History of Middle-earth volumes. They're dense, there's a lot to them, there's a lot of editorial, you know, a lot of annotations, a lot of end notes to go through and sift through. And also, I tend to follow along with the Signum University, the Mythgard book clubs of these books. I watch the videos of them because Professor Corey Olsen has a lot of interesting things, a lot of insights into these books. And there are some interesting discussions that happened on those book clubs. And so it takes me a while to get through these sometimes, but they're well worth it for me, at least. So yeah, that's Return of the Shadow. And then the last 3 books that I read, or rather listened to this month, was an entire trilogy. So I listened to the Imperial Radich trilogy by Ann Leckie on audiobook this month. I started it. I had previously read the first 2, Ancillary Justice and Ancillary Sword, several years ago, but for some reason, I just never got around to the 3rd and final book in this trilogy, Ancillary Mercy. And so I wanted to finish the trilogy, but it had been so long since I read the first 2 that I figured I might as well just reread the first 2 and then read the 3rd one. And I was able to get them all on audiobook this month from my library. So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's just listen to the audiobooks. I was really glad that I listened to the audiobooks specifically. These books are read by Adjoa Andoh, who's a great actress. You probably know her best from Bridgerton. She plays one of the older lady character who's a friend of the Queen in Bridgerton. She's very good, and she does a really great job of. She has really consistent pronunciation, which is great in books like these where there's lots of really weird words and names, especially. She has very good, consistent pronunciation of all of the often very difficult names. And her voice work is excellent across the board. She's really good. A lot of these characters are strongly differentiated from each other by their ethnicity and their class. And she does a really good job of differentiating them with her voice work. She's also very good at, because the main character, Breck, is an AI and not a human, you know, that makes it a little trickier, I think, to do the sort of emote, right? The vocal emoting that can sometimes be expected. Breck obviously feels very deeply and has very strong emotions, but she's not demonstrative with her emotions, right? And Adjoa Andoh does a really good job, I think, of finding that line of, you know, delivering the line delivery of showing us that there's emotion going on, but keeping it also generally pretty low key, such that when Breck does, you know, on a couple of memorable occasions, does actually get like really upset or really emotive, it is particularly shocking and particularly standout moments, right? And it works really well. It's very effective. So I really, really loved particularly the audiobooks of these books. If you don't know what the Imperial Radich trilogy is, it's a story about this big empire. It's a space opera type sci-fi, right? Where they all their spaceships and space stations are run by fully sentient AIs, and some of these AIs have ancillaries that are literally human bodies where the AI is shoved into their brains. And so our main character Breck used to be the Justice of Kala, which was a troop carrier ship. She's 2,000 years old, and she was destroyed all but one of her ancillaries. So now she's this sentient AI stuck inside the body of one single human being. So she is one single human ancillary that is left over from this enormous troop carrier ship that once had hundreds of these human bodies and experienced the world through hundreds of different human bodies. And it's very much about, you know, she's kind of out for revenge against the people who the people who did this to her in the first place. But it's, you know, it's about imperialism, colonialism, racism, classism. There's a lot of things going on thematically in the background of these stories, in addition to being really compelling sci-fi yarns that are, you know, very fun, very character driven. The characters are all extremely well drawn. And Lecky's prose, I think, is very good. And yeah, I think, again, like having them read by Joa Ando, who is a very good actress, and has extremely good line delivery and just generally makes really good choices that I approve of, was really, really nice and really, really enhanced the entertainment value to me. So I highly recommend the books in any form, but also if you're into audiobooks at all, I do think these audiobooks are particularly good. So yeah, those are the 6 books that I finished reading this month. I will say I don't have a lot of specific plans for the month of June. I'm currently still reading The Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. I'm about 100 pages away from being done with it, so I'll probably be finishing it in the next day or two. And then I might do a separate video just talking about this book because I'm really enjoying this book and I feel like I'm going to have a lot to say about it. But I want to finish it. I want to be completely done with it before I really talk about it. But this was my classic for the month of May. I'm just not quite finished with it yet. So yeah, once I finish this, I'll probably talk about it. For the month of June, I'm probably not going to do like a really specific TBR, largely because I'm going on vacation for 10 days in June. I'm doing a road trip. I'm going to be driving to Memphis and then New Orleans for 10 days. So like, it's going to be the kind of vacation where I'm going to be doing a lot of things. I'm going to be doing a lot of touristy sightseeing things. I've never been to either of these cities. I want to experience them. I want to learn about the history. I want to do tours. I want to sightsee. I want to experience the, you know, live music and good food and the culture and whatnot. So I still plan to try to read every day. I'm definitely going to be bringing at least one book with me on this trip. And, you know, I'll probably spend some time lounging by the pool or whatever, but like I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff too. This is definitely going to be a touristy sightseeing kind of travel-y vacation rather than I'm just going to relax on the beach and sip a drink and read a book kind of vacation. So I'm not planning to read a ton in the month of June, but I do have a couple of mammoths that I would like to try to get to next. So I'll probably bring one of these books with me on vacation. One of them is Middlemarch by George Eliot. I want to sit down and finish this book. I want to read the rest of this 800-page behemoth at some point. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. I'm on a 19th century novel kick. I'm almost done with Great Expectations, so this seems like a pretty natural fit to come next. So I'm just enjoying the hell out of it, and I want to get back to it and actually sit down and really finish it. So this is one possibility. The other mammoth that I'm thinking about maybe taking with me on vacation is the next book in the Farseer trilogy, Assassin's Quest. This is the third and final book in the Farseer trilogy, and the next in the Realm of the Elderling series that I have been starting. I've read the first 2 already, and I'm really excited to read this one and see what happens next. So those are 2 possibilities. I'm leaving for vacation on the 15th. Today's the 1st. Basically 2 weeks I'm leaving on vacation. So I don't know what I'm going to read before then. Probably just some simple, easy things. You know, like the next Discworld novel or 2, maybe. or something else that's kind of short and on my TBR. But yeah, I don't plan to read a ton of books in the month of June. June is definitely going to be a slow reading month for me. I imagine it'll pick up again in July once I'm back from vacation and get back to my normal life. I will, start up with, I will tackle my TBR in a more concerted way again in July once I'm done with vacay. But yeah, right now I'm like Baldur's Gate 3 and oh my gosh, got a vacation coming up in 2 weeks. So like the reading thing is just a little bit slow for me right now. But that having been said, I'm still reading every day. I've got 150 whatever day reading streak still going. Yeah, I've still got a lot of stuff on my TBR. My next video will be a haul video because I actually did buy some books just today. And I want to talk a little bit about the books that I bought. Beyond that, I'm not sure. June will probably be a slow kind of month, but I imagine I'll be picking it back up in July. So, all that having been said, what did you read in May? What was your best read? All of my reads this month were 4 or 5 stars, I think. Honestly, star ratings are less important to me than just talking about like what I liked and what I didn't like about any given book. But yeah, what books did you read this month? What books are you planning to read in June? Also, happy Pride Month to all of my fellow queers. Whether you're regardless of what labels you use for yourself, regardless of how regardless of whether you're secure in the knowledge of what you are, what your sexuality is, or what your gender is, regardless of what pronouns you use, regardless of whether you're out of the closet or in the closet, you are loved, you are supported. It's Pride Month. You can be proud, even if it's a quiet kind of pride. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.